Rock and roll may have started in the US, but it quickly found a home in Japan too. Nothing exemplifies the music better than the electric guitar. Of course, this kind of guitar needs an amplifier to blast out the sound and send parents of teenagers running for cover. Watch out. The amp partners with the instrument to allow the players to create their own aural images. Now, an aficionado in Japan has created a museum dedicated entirely to one of the pioneers.
The hard driving sound of the electric guitar pumps up the energy level at a town in Yamaguchi Prefecture. The amp used for the event is one of the most recognized brands in rock, Marshall, from Great Britain. This museum has 120 of them and is said to be the only one in the world devoted to guitar amplifiers.
You're lucky to see vintage amps like these even once in your life.
They blow me away.
Jim Marshall founded Marshall Amplification in London 50 years ago. His equipment gained a reputation for being especially loud and for breaking sooner into distortion. In the lexicon of the day, they were heavy. Guitar players such as Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton answered the siren song and let their ideas flow through their Marshalls. The curator of the museum is Kazuhiko Taketani. He made a living working at the post office, but spent much of his free time collecting Marshall amps for 30 years.
Whenever I came across a good one, I had to have it, regardless of the price.
Taketani was a teenager when he first heard the sound that changed his life. He bought one, then another, and then he found he couldn't stop. His passion required him to cut back on living expenses, but that's a price he's willing to pay. 20 years ago, he wrote a letter to Jim Marshall with an idea for giving a wider audience access to his collection.
The history of Marshall amps is the history of rock music. I think this must be preserved. I told him that my dream was to open a Marshall museum in Japan.
A month later, a reply arrived from Jim Marshall himself.
Dear Kazuhiko, many congratulations on your Marshall collection. I hope to have the opportunity to meet you at one of my visits to a music store while I'm in Japan. Jim Marshall.
I felt I was floating on a cloud. Can't imagine how happy I was.
The following month, the opportunity became a reality. Taketani met the man whose name is on the amps in person. He promised Marshall that he would open the museum someday. To make that happen, he took early retirement from the post office and spent his retirement allowance on getting things set up. He rented a vacant building from one of his friends to accommodate the collection. He even received an official go-ahead from Jim in a letter officially endorsing the opening of the Marshall Museum in Japan. Marshall himself, however, would never see it. The Ampmeister died at the age of 88 in early April, about a month before the museum was to open.
I was shocked. He listened to everybody's opinions, from professional artists to amateur musicians, and he was always fair. I hope in some way I can contribute to sharing his achievements and his approach.
Rock fans made their way to the site for opening day. Taketani told them of the magic of Marshall amps.
Those are some great amps. The curator's quite a guy too.
A professional guitarist made sure the amplifiers made an impression on the ears as well as the eyes.
I'm glad I could finally fulfill my promise to Jim. It was really a stroke of luck that I was able to meet him. I want to make the museum better and better for his sake.
Taketani's vision for the institution is expanding. He plans to use the space for staging concerts and operating a school of rock for children. The founder of the company may no longer be with us, but the martial sound lives on. Finally, don't forget the original broadcasting tower. Tokyo Tower still holds its ground. Come visit our neck of the woods again next week. Just 7 days to go.